And we are live on another edition of the K&K Sports Show, October 12th, 2022. I don't have much to say this week, I'll tell you, because my Auburn team stinks. My Broncos are in trouble. My saving grace might be the New York Knicks, and whoever said that. So I'll introduce you guys and let you guys talk because I might be speechless for a little tonight. Mr. Carson Shear, what's going on?
You could be a Lions fan, Kurt. You could be a Lions fan. So there's worse fan bases out there. So I'm jealous of your Broncos still. But yeah, looking forward to the show tonight. Got a lot to talk about. NBA's right around the corner. We got some baseball to dive into, break down the NFL. Looking forward to a good show, boys.
Mr. Ryan Scoop Woodhams live from AC, baby. What's going on?
That's correct. Yep, my first time to Atlantic City. Got down here today. But nothing stops the K&K show. So I'm looking forward to just a little different backdrop, but the same old conversation.
We have a what's up, boys, from our good friend. Ready for this one, Kenny? Ricky Litwinkowicz. How did I nail that name? I got
Ricky. Ricky Pipe Bomb Radio. Check them out. Lots of shows on there. Arch Rivals Football. Great show. Check them out. Ricky, give us the times and days you were on, so we can pass it off to our audience for you.
He's saying he's got a new venture. If anyone is interested, let me know. We have to talk to Ricky after the show, then I guess we'll be messaging Ricky. Mr. Nice. Paul Rosen.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Do we have Paul?
Paul's in Florida, where they had the brink of the his area got hit pretty hard with the hurricane. So he is on with his through his phone tonight.
Charles Dickens.
So we might.
What's that?
You're a little choppy, so I was just letting everybody know that you are in Florida, where the hurricane hit pretty hard, and you still don't have internet, so you're broadcasting from your phone. So you were a little choppy there, so we didn't get your intro.
Oh, okay. All right.
We hear you
sorry
now. We hear you now.
Guys.
No, don't be sorry. We hear you now. Right. So whatever you were saying, can you just repeat?
All right. Like a Charles Dickens novel, it was the best of times on Sunday morning as our New York Football Giants won the biggest game in probably the last 5 years, and it was the worst of times as a New York Mets fan about 10:30 as the Mets bowed out unceremoniously in the playoffs, but we'll get to that pretty soon, I'm sure.
All right. Ricky's saying, Kenny, Arch Rivals Football Tuesdays at 8 and Saturdays at 4. And Mr. Kirkpatrick, what's your opening statement? And you could take it from there.
What's my opening statement? I am on cloud 9. Paul nailed it with the Giants. 5 games in, we got our head coach. There's no doubt in my mind. We got our head coach for the future. And who knows where this Giant team's going. We're going to get into it, Kurt. I know you have a couple of questions, but we may have our quarterback. I don't know yet. It's 5 games in. But 5 games in, if you ask me today, I would say yes. But, ask me again in another 5 games. And I'm ecstatic. Yankees, Ryan, we got the much-needed game 1 yesterday. And let's hope we can get game 2 tomorrow. And I know we're going to start the show off with some baseball, and we're going to let Ryan take over. He's got some baseball questions for us guys. And I got a couple things on baseball, too, and if anybody else wants to chat baseball. But let's get the show started tonight with baseball, since I believe it's the most important sport of the week. Ryan, take it over, bud.
All right, sounds good. Just tailing off what you said about the game 2. I hope we get game 2 in tomorrow. It sounds like the rain's not going to the rain's going to kind of threaten that, but we'll see. So yeah, I just thought I would go around a little bit. Got a couple of individual questions, a couple panel questions, just some stuff that I was thinking about, both in terms of the postseason, but also looking ahead to the off season and kind of reviewing what 22 was like on a baseball standpoint. I'm going to start off with Paul. Paul, you just kind of hit on it. Unfortunately, a lot of us believed that the Mets were going to go a little bit further than they did. You actually were the most realistic, actually, to what ended up happening. So my question being, looking to the coming off season, it's obvious that the Mets' priority would be to retain Jacob deGrom. First, my question is, if there's a main threat to sign him away from the Mets, who would that be? And also, the next question, who of the following non-DeGrom upcoming free agents do you find the most imperative for the Mets to bring back? Chris Bassett, Taijuan Walker, Cookie Carrasco, Edwin Diaz, or Brendan Nimmo?
Okay. DeGrom, I mean, we've heard the rumors, the Braves, the Rangers, who knows? I mean, uh, he didn't want to get into it, obviously, after the loss on Sunday, and he was asked about it, and it remains to be seen. But I know those two were the prominent teams at this point that came out. In terms of free agents, yeah, the Mets not only have the 4 or 5 that you mentioned, they literally have everyone in their bullpen, including Edwin Diaz as a free agent. But let's start there. I think Diaz and Brandon Nimmo, without question in my mind, are the top 2 free agents they must sign. Now, that's easier said than done. I'll start with Diaz. He apparently has indicated he would like to stay with the Mets, and I read something today that they would like to try and work out something before free agency starts. So if that can be worked out, phenomenal. I think the Mets fans have embraced him. He's become clearly one of the fan favorites. He had, arguably one of the greatest relief pitching years in baseball history, and without a doubt, he'd be my number 1 priority. Second is Brandon Nimmo. He's proven he may be the heart and soul of this team. He's one of the best leadoff hitters, and he has developed into unbelievable center fielder. I think Ryan, you might know better. I think he had a 5 wins above placement.
Yeah, it's a little over 5.
Yeah.
5.4. Yeah.
Better than most of the other Mets on the team. So he's proven himself. In the past, he'd been injury prone. He played 151 games this year without question in my mind. He was the engine that started this Met team game after game after game. So in my mind, it's those 2. If they can work out short-term deals with some of the other pitchers, clearly if DeGrom does decide to opt out and the pitching staff needs to be rebuilt, if those other guys, if Carrasco, Walker, or Bassett would like a short-term 1 or 2 year deal, hey, I'd bring them back.
Obviously I'm not a Mets fan, but I do agree with you about Diaz and Nimmo being the top 2. Also, I will say, since Mariano Rivera retired, I think Edwin Diaz not only has had one of the best seasons, but he's got arguably the single best walk-in intro that I've seen. That is, I would go to Citi Field just for that.
Don't tell Jen that, right, Kurt?
Yeah, Jen doesn't like it. I love it. I think it's awesome. Jen doesn't love with the mascots, but
if no one's seen it, of course, I don't know if you've seen it, but he comes out to the Timmy trumpet.
Yeah, that's great.
Fun fact, I've actually almost knocked over Mr. Met once, and I apologize for that. But
don't tell William Contreras that either, I guess.
So my next question, this is a panel question, but I do want to particularly target my fellow Yankees fans with this one. With the latest of many times Aroldis Chapman has made the news for something other than actually closing out a big game, it seems inevitable that the Yankees will have an offseason question at closer for the first time since 2016. Not often a question in recent years, with Mariano Rivera and Aroldis Chapman combining to finish almost 1,200 games in the past 28 years. Do you believe either Clay Holmes or another arm in the current bullpen is prepared to handle being the guy in that role? Is there another one outside the organization that you would pursue, or do you not believe that they should designate one specific closer entering 2023? Kurt, I'll give that to you first.
You know what? I'm going to be, I've always said, if you have that closer, again, you're talking Rivera, now you're talking Diaz. Those guys are on a different level, though, right? So, right. I don't know. You know what? I would be open, to be honest with you, of, not designate them right now. I mean, who are you going to go get, right? So, it's not like you have nobody who can take that role and run with it in the organization, right? You mentioned Holmes. I don't know. I'm going to say, again, I don't want to use the word, closer by committee, but all right, hey, if it's going to be home, it's Holmes, but I'm not married to Holmes. It doesn't have to be him. We're not going to pay him like a full-time, you have to be the closer. If it works, it works. If not, we're going to try somebody else. That's what I would do.
Kenny, I'll kick it over to you.
I agree with Kurt, but it's also I'm also intrigued to see now. Yesterday, game one, Clay Holmes did okay. Yeah, he hit the first batter he faced, but he got the save. I want to see him continue to make the outs in the postseason, and then yes, he's my closer for next year. If he shows that he kind of struggles this year, then it might be a committee, because you got your number one priority, Aaron Judge, that you got to sign. So you're not going to get an Edwin Diaz or a big name reliever in free agency. So I do think it's going to have to be in-house. And I'm hoping it is Clay Holmes, because I do like what I see from him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Unfortunately, in my, I would have probably a week ago put Scott Efros as a wild card there. And of course, he went down with Tommy John. So he'll be out until 2024. But no, I think that you guys are both right. I think that it should be Clay Holmes should be the favorite going in, but open to a closer by committee if that's the best option. Does anyone else have any opinions on the matter that they want to voice?
Just really quick, because I don't know much about the Yankees, but I will say Aroldis Chapman is a guy that you have to look at with his age too. He's getting up there in age. He's 34, going to turn 35 soon. So if that's the guy that the Yankees want to plan on keep, go for it. But like Kenny just said with a great point, you got to look at the salary cap and all those contracts, because you're going to have to pay the farm for Aaron Judge in the offseason. But if you can go out and get a guy that's younger and more explosive that could not live up to as Aroldis Chapman, because he's a pretty damn good closer, but a guy that's similar in strength, that's something to look at too.
Well, Carson, I know you live in Michigan.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to talk. I know Carson's in Michigan. I don't know if he's seen the news. Chapman is not on the Yankee postseason roster because of a disciplinary action. He did not attend practice, and he didn't have a viable excuse on why he missed practice.
Oh, okay.
So they left him off the roster.
Yeah, that's why I was asking the question. Sorry, Carson.
You're good.
Yeah, no, I think the other thing in terms of actually being on the field, say nothing of his many transgressions off of it, I think just the fact that he was kind of the original, flamethrower in the game, and now everyone else is throwing 102. So and his velocity decreases with age. I think it was just a perfect storm of circumstances that kind of decreased his value pretty sharply. Yeah, okay. So next one, I will open this more up to the general panel. As I'm sure everyone has seen, the Anaheim Angels are going to be up for sale going into the offseason. I think that Angels fans are finally looking at Art Moreno and saying he's finally done something to benefit the team. Now, going into if and when this sale is finalized, do you guys believe that the new owner should look to build around the Trout, Ohtani, Ward, Sandoval nucleus? Or should the team assume Ohtani will not resign and look to move him like the Nationals did with Juan Soto this summer while he still has a full year of control left? And if you think he should be traded, give me a team other than your team of preference where you believe he'd be a good fit. Kurt, you want to start?
Yeah, you know what? I think they have to. I think their number one goal should be, okay, we are going to build it around Trout and Ohtani. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to put Ohtani one. I'm not the biggest Trout person, but both of those guys, they don't win, right? So, but listen, they are talented. But the problem, like you said, with Ohtani is this is his last year, right, of the deal, right? So this is it.
He's going into his final year.
So he's going through his final year. So really, he holds all the cards here. So, are you gonna? Let's be realistic. If they do come back, are you gonna go all in and say the Angels are a World Series title contender? I'm going to say no, they're not. So if Ohtani and his team, they turn around and they say to you, like, this is it, we want out, or we're not signing back, I think their hands are forced and they are going to have to trade. Again, it's going to have to be, I think, a big market. I think he's going to, pull that where kind of like, I'll go to, you're sending me to the Cincinnati Reds, I'm not re-signing there. I think he's going to want a big market. Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, right? I mean, he's Otani. I think he wants that big market, and I think it's going to be one of those three teams. But the thing that's crazy about it is it kills like the two birds in one stone, right? Because you're getting a starter, like a top three in your rotation, and one of the best hitters in baseball. So it's something we probably never seen in our lifetime. We haven't, and I don't know if we're ever going to do it again. So, that's what I think they're going to be forced to move him, because I just don't think he's going to commit to the Angels long term.
You don't think with that nucleus that I mentioned, you don't think that they have enough that you can say that if you build a couple more pieces around those four players, that they've got enough to make the push?
But is he committing to me? That's the thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure, I have to know, okay, is he signing long term? Is he going to give another 2-3 year deal? Because, like you said, if they go all in and say, we'll show you what we have to try to win it, and you don't win it, and now he walks, you have nothing for him. So I just think I think it's going to be up to Otani. It's like a poker game. You're an AC. It's
Right.
poker. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to say you're staying here for now, and we're going to lose you for nothing? Or when push comes to shove, the thing is, the closer you get to the deadline, it's going to be like, okay, teams are going to know, well, you're desperate to make that move. Maybe this trade's earlier, and now the bidding is up and you're going to get a better deal. So
Good stuff. Paul, I'll take you next since I asked you the first question.
Okay. So I thought I read, and Ryan, again, you may know more than this, that he had signed that $30 million contract, Otani, with the only team that he could be traded to was the Mets. And I thought I read that somewhere, and maybe I'm I'm projecting that, but I thought that's what I read. He had a no trade clause to every other team except the Mets. I don't know if that was due to the relationship he had with Billy Epler, but be that as it may, I'm going to take it from this angle. I think what the Yankees do with Aaron Judge is going to play out as to what might happen with Otani. I'm going to tell you why.
Interesting.
Because if somehow Judge does not re-sign with the Yankees, and cover your ears, Ryan and Kenny, say he goes to the Giants. I'm not even saying he'll go to the Mets. What will the Yankees then do after next year? Well, we've seen that this happened before, haven't we? When a big Japanese star comes to the Yankees, and he becomes one of the Godzillas of, and guys, who I'm referring to. I could see the Yankees making a tremendous play for him if, in fact, Aaron Judge goes elsewhere. And I really think that they would go all out to try and get him after next year. But it all, of course, depends on Aaron Judge.
Ryan, real quick, we got a comment, and I know I cannot comment on this because I do not know anything about this, but it says, in football, Barcelona versus Inter Milan 3-3 in Barcelona for the second time in a row does not advance to the round of 16 in the Champions League, and this is a terrible disappointment for them. Does anybody want to have any comment on that comment about football/soccer?
That's a foreign language to me. I'm sorry.
I don't know anything about that either.
Sorry.
Carson, you got anything for that?
No, I don't. Thanks for watching the show. I appreciate it. What's the guy's name?
I can't really see. It's hard to see the name on the YouTube. So
Let me look at it. Yeah. Thanks for watching the show, though.
Yeah, no, thanks for the comment.
Yeah.
I don't follow too much, but I know Barcelona, Milan, they're tough teams. I know that much. So I don't even want to add to it. Unfortunately, I don't. Maybe we need to start following soccer more, boys.
I can tell you this: one of the guys I work with, good friend I work with, is a big time soccer guy. So we might have to get him to come on. Yeah, World Cup. Yep, Thanksgiving, isn't it? Isn't it the day after Thanksgiving? Right? Is it USA's
think so,
playing?
Yeah.
So be watching that.
So let's see, who did I get? Kenny, I'll go to you next since I don't think I got to you.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick because Kurt, Paul both nailed my points. I also think, like Kurt said, Angels new ownership, just like the Nationals had to trade Soto. You got two guys you're stuck with. Well, one guy you're stuck with in Anaheim, and he seems to always be hurt, unfortunately, and that's Mike Trout. If he could stay healthy in a 162 game year season, who knows what we'd see from this guy. Anthony Rendon, another guy who comes to mind that's always hurt. Uh, I don't think Otani's going to sign a long term deal with Anaheim, so you may see a midseason trade if they're not contending. And my sleeper team is going to be the San Francisco Giants. This team is looking for a star. They haven't had that star since Barry Bonds, and now you can get Shohei Otani. You could say Buster Posey, but you can get Shohei Otani on the Giants, and that's going to sell. That's going to sell, and he's going to be a star there for years and be the focal point of the Giants. And the Angels will get enough in return to get a real rebuild going. And it's going to, you thought you're going to get a lot for Soto. Imagine what you would get for Otani. So whoever, if they do trade Otani, Angels are going to get King's ransom back for him. But I would say the Giants would be my sneaky team that would get him.
If you put Otani on the Giants, you may see Dodgers Giants once again become a close 1-8 in New York Boston for the biggest rivalry in baseball.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Carson, I'll go to you if you've got any thoughts on this Otani question.
Yeah, it's tough to say because you got Mike Trout, who's their superstar, their heart and soul of the Angels, and he's only made one postseason berth, and that's when they got swept by the Royals. And then you have this kid Otani that comes along and falls right in their lap. And I think without Aaron Judge this year, he would be the unanimous MVP. You got to do everything in your power, in my opinion, to keep Otani on the Angels. But like Kenny just said, if there's a team that's willing to go all in for him and you want to kind of go back to where you had Trout and back in 2014, you made a nice playoff push. I would definitely be open to offers as well.
I'm going to
hey Ryan, quick question.
What's
you know who represents Otani, who his agent is?
I don't offhand, unfortunately.
It's not Boris, is it?
I don't believe so. I think I would remember that from his original transition to America.
Bolello? I just
again?
Googled it, but Bolello. Nez Bolello?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
That's his agent.
Well,
Yeah.
Ryan, why don't we do this? You told me you have 10 questions.
Yes.
Okay, why don't we do 2 more now, and then in the second half of the show, we do the final 5 baseball, and we'll do a little football in between baseball.
All right, sounds good to me. All right, I'll go through these next 2.
So pick the 2 questions you want to ask now, and then the other 5 will be in the second half of the show.
I'll just do the next 2 on my list here to make it less complex, if at all possible. So this one's for Carson. Carson, so this year, well, in the last 12 months, I'll say, we've seen a lot of great players of our time, obviously Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols, but also Posey, David Price, John Lester, among others, retire in recent months. Do you believe perhaps the greatest hitter not named Mike Trout of the past 15 years in Miguel Cabrera is done as a Detroit Tiger and or in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I think from the reports and what the talk around town has been, they're going to give Miguel one final hurrah, one last season. I still don't see the Tigers coming anywhere close to competing, and at least for the next couple of years. I do like Scott Harris, our brand new GM, taking over a really tough rebuild. So once Miggy leaves and has his last final year with us last year, it's going to be a complete rebuild and start fresh. But yeah, I believe, I mean, Miguel Cabrera was my entire childhood. He was my favorite baseball player growing up. I've never seen a hitter quite like him. Obviously unanimous AL MVP, multiple Silver Slugger, Triple Crown winner back in 2012. Yeah, he's the closest thing that I've seen to our elite baseball player in a long time. But yeah, I think he's got to go. I mean, the health issues have been catching up to him. The age is starting to become a problem. He did say he wants to stay around the game of baseball, but I don't see him necessarily leaving the Tigers and going to another team. I think he's going to end his career in Detroit for one last year. But yeah, I've been privileged to see him grow up my whole life to watch him. So I think he's going to have one last year with us, and we'll kind of give him his curtain call and his one last hurrah. But I think he's done after next year.
Understandable. Thank you for that input, because I don't know a ton about how those have been handled in Detroit. So appreciate your insight on those things. Yeah. And for my last question for now, at least, this is a panel one. Do you believe the Angels and the Phillies made the right decisions retaining their interim managers? And can you give me either a manager and a team fit you believe makes sense this offseason, or just a currently unemployed manager you'd like to see get either another opportunity or his first opportunity? I'll kick this one over to Kenny.
I'm surprised the Angels retained Phil Nevin. I didn't see them really improve after they fired Joe Madden. Hats off to the Phillies for re-signing Robbie Thompson. Love, old Yankee coach and player getting a shot, and I love to see him do well in these playoffs. I'll throw one name out there. I'd give Joe Madden another shot. I got a couple on my list, and I know somebody's probably going to name the other guy on my list, but if nobody does it, I'll name it at the end. But Joe Madden, he's got that little spark in him. I think he's still got a couple of good years in him, and I could see him going to some place like White Sox. La Russa retiring, send him over to Chicago, big market. He coached the Cubs. Give him the big market Chicago White Sox.
Interesting. That'd be an interesting fit, especially cultural wise. It'd be with some of his quirks, I'll say, that he had with running the clubhouse in Tampa. Kurt, what's your opinion on this? Is there a manager and a team fit you believe makes sense, or someone either as a retread or a first timer that you'd like to see get a managerial job?
Yeah, real quick. I won't talk about the Angels that much, but I got to give the Phillies and Thompson, hey, tip of the hat, because again, Mr. Girardi, get back into the booth, into the broadcasting booth, because it was not a good look for you in Philly. They were a disaster. Here comes, you bring the new manager in. This team is maybe the hottest team in the National League. But Ryan, you know how you told people before to cover their ears? I want you to cover your ears on this one, because if there is no parade in downtown New York in a couple of weeks, Mr. Mattingly, come back home, because this is it for Mr. Boone in my eyes. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the press conferences. It's World Championship or bust, or thank you. And you know what? Bring home a true Yankee and let's go. I think the city will be behind him. These fans will be behind him. I think it's what the fans would want. I'm bringing Mattingly home.
That was my guy, Kurt. So that's why I thought
with the same mix. With the same mix.
Oh, with Yankees, yeah. If the Yankees don't win a World Series, bring Mattingly. Absolutely.
I know Ryan doesn't want to hear that, but that's my
no, because they want to win a World Series. But hey, if you don't, it's time to move on. Mattingly sitting there waiting.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to waste time defending the incumbent right now. I'll kick one over.
Ryan wasn't going to go there.
Well, only in the interest of time. If I hadn't spoken so much before, I would have taken them bait. But Paul, what's your take on this question in terms of either someone you've seen that you'd like to see back in a job, or someone who you think should get it first time?
Yeah, Kurt nailed it. He stole my thunder. I was about to say Don Mattingly. I mean, I've watched this guy do more with less over the last 4 or 5 years with the Marlins, and for him to get what he gets out of the players that have played for him is amazing. So I think he should be getting another shot, whether it's with the interlocking NNY or some other team. But I think he's proven himself. He's managed well over the last few years, and I think he certainly deserves another shot.
All right. Carson, are you going to keep up the Mattingly streak, or you got a different idea in mind for me?
Yeah, I would. I mean, they make great points. I mean, Mattingly, he's a former Yankee. He would come back home. He would take over this team with more talent, especially with Judge, with coming off the year that he had. I would go with Mattingly. I would say Tony La Russa, but I feel like he's getting up there in age, and I feel like he's going to call it quits soon. But I like Tony La Russa a lot as well as a possible option.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think that Tony La Russa will retire at the end. But I do appreciate that was someone that I hadn't even really thought of for that question. I'll give my own 2 cents here very quick. This is someone who this is the one that I wanted when the Yankees fired Girardi back in 2017. It didn't really make it that far in the discussions, but Raul Ibanez, I think, would be a great first-time manager for somebody. He seems to have a good balance of what the quote-unquote traditional thinkers like, but also understanding how a new wave front office like the Dodgers runs in terms of analytics. He seems to be someone that players have gravitated towards, and just seems to have a lot of respect around the game for someone who hasn't even had a coaching job yet. I'd like to see Raul Ibanez get at least a coaching job, if not a managerial position, if not this offseason, then hopefully sometime in the near future. So that was my 5th question. So we'll pause here and then we'll come back to the rest at the end.
Appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely, right. Second half will be the other half, because we do have listeners, and I haven't heard one of our. Hopefully, he'll be on later. We have a couple of our listeners are really into baseball, so I'd like for them, if they come on a little later, at least to have some of the baseball questions, which have been excellent. So thank you, Ryan, for that.
Thank you.
We'll do a little football, and then we'll get right back into the baseball, fellas. Paul, you texted me the other day saying you thought of a couple of questions while you were on the plane. So this week, instead of breaking down games as a recap, fellas, I got some questions. And if anybody else, I know Paul has a couple of questions. I broke it down into divisions. So, Paul, I know you got an NFC East question about the Cowboys. Why don't you start with that one? That would be a good one to start the NFL talk off with, I believe.
Okay. All right. Just for everybody, who do you think will well, I had 2 Cowboy questions. I'm not sure which one you meant, Kenny, but
let's do both of them. Yeah, let's do both of them. We'll do it as a 2-4. Let's
All right. Okay. So the first question is there a quarterback controversy in Dallas between Dak and Cooper Rush? Kurt, we'll start. Kurt.
Listen, you want me to talk for
Carson.
2 hours tonight? There is no quarterback controversy. I would have Dak Prescott holding the clipboard. They made a mistake paying him. And listen, this team's better running the football, playing their defense is light out. They're back to running the football. I don't need a guy $45 million average quarterback throwing the ball around to make it look like he has stats. No, Cooper Rush, they're better off with Cooper Rush than Dak Prescott. So in my eyes, there's no they will never do it because of the money, but they're better. I'd rather play them with Dak than Cooper Rush.
Carson.
Yeah, I'm with Kurt here. I've never been a big believer in Dak Prescott. And, we talked about this multiple times in the past where we were just kind of absurd and kind of jaw struck how the Cowboys offered Dak that much money. And you're seeing, he had that injury, and we'll see how fast he can recover back from it. But if Cooper Rush he hasn't lost a game yet with the Cowboys. So why fix something that's not broken? Like Kurt just said, you're going to have to play Dak, obviously, because he's their franchise right now at the moment for their player. But their defense has been bailing them out. Their offense is okay. I still don't know what Zeke's intentions are with this team quite just yet. But if Cooper Rush is the guy right now, you leave him in.
Okay, Ryan.
So I'll admit something that I don't like to admit, but I'm actually a pretty big Dak fan from a personal standpoint. I'd root for him if he were on any other team but Dallas, and if he played for any other college team but Mississippi State. But going to the actual football side of things, I don't think that he is in danger of his job as of yet, partially because of the money that they paid, which, as I've said in the past multiple times, I think that they overpaid him. And I don't think that there's as much of a gap as you'd like between him and Cooper Rush to justify how much more they're paying Dak than him. But I think that he'll come back and have the opportunity to finish out the season whenever that is. Now going into the offseason, could things get interesting depending on, I don't know how his contract looks, but depending on how his contract looks, could things potentially get interesting where maybe they look to trade him and just roll with Cooper Rush? I imagine that's possible depending on the financials of it. But the balance of the season, when Dak comes back, he's their QB. And I think that's going to be a hard thing to modify just because of the financials that are tied up in it.
Paul, we got a comment from our good friend and great big-time Cowboy fan, Manny DeLima. Dak ain't worth that money. Keep Rush until he blanks up. So that's from a Cowboy fan.
Yeah, exactly. Kenny, what's your thoughts?
You know, you guys are on point tonight. Kurt, you've been nailing it. Cowboys have a top 5 defense, in my opinion, and they're running the ball, using it as to their strength. Ryan, hold your ears. If the Cowboys beat the Eagles, how is there not a quarterback controversy over there? And if I just throw a couple names out there, fellas, Tony Romo came in off the bench, right? And the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, came in because Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Now Cooper Rush, obviously not putting them in their league, but quarterbacks get recognized from injuries like this. If he goes and beats the Cowboys, and now you're looking at 5-0 with Cooper Rush, how do you not have a quarterback controversy?
Yeah.
You just said if
how do you not look? And you know what? And this is bold, and I know how Manny DeLima is going to feel, but how do you not throw Dak Prescott on the trade block? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to give you King's ransom for Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I know I know a team in orange that won't do that.
Yeah. Well, that segues into our next question. Obviously, big game coming up Sunday night. Cowboys, Eagles. I'll start. I'll let Ryan go last. Kurt, Carson, Kenny, Ryan. Who wins? Cowboys or Eagles?
Manny's saying,
Kurt?
Please do trade for Dak. Get the Dak. I'll trade him for draft picks, Manny's saying. Let's start it up. You know what? I'll tell you this. I know I texted Ryan over the weekend, congratulated him on the Eagle game, and he said, ugly win. But you know what? That's the sign of a good team. Mm-hmm. They didn't play their best game. They're on the road. They were up big. Cardinals come back. They tie the game. But what happens late in the game? The Eagles go down. They drive, kick the field goal, stop them on defense. So Manny's saying 24-17 Eagles. I'm going to go the opposite. I think Philly's going to be rocking on Sunday. It's in Philly, right, Ryan?
That's correct.
It's going to be rocking on Sunday night. And I think the Eagles, it'll be close, low scoring game, but I think the Eagles make one or two more big plays, and I'm going to take the Eagles at home.
Carson.
Yeah, I'm with Curry here. I think the Eagles are going to win this game. One of the hardest places to play at is in Philadelphia with that fan base of theirs, and they're going to be fired up. Jalen Hurts' first real test at a really good defense in Dallas, going up against that defensive front line and Micah Parsons and all those boys. But yeah, I think that the Eagles are overall all around just one of the best teams in football. And this is a statement game for them, and I would go Eagles here.
Manny's saying the Cowboy defense is going to keep their opponent under 20 points again.
Kenny?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Carson. I think the Eagles are going to take this one and just score over 20. And I think Eagles are going to win this game like 21-17. It's going to be a defensive battle, but the difference is going to be, and Manny, you might disagree with me here, Diggs is a little overrated in my opinion. And he's been getting burned a lot so far this year. So whoever he is lined up against, whether it's A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, watch out for them having a big game. I'm going to take the Eagles in a tight defensive battle.
Ryan, let me go, and then you'll go after me. Well, I'm going to go the other way. I've watched the Dallas defense all season, and they have been unbelievable. And the Eagles are bound to lose a game at some point, and I think this just might be the game. It's going to be an intense game. Obviously, it's going to be not to sound cliche-ish, but battle in the trenches. And I think the Cowboys defense may hold the Eagles this week. It'll again be a low-scoring game, maybe a 17-13 game, a 20-16 game, but I think the Cowboys will come out on top in this game. Sorry, Ryan.
No, you know what? Real quick, guys, the truth is out. Paul wants that quarterback controversy. That's why he takes the Cowboys here. The truth is out.
Well, listen, we're not trading for Dak.
No.
Okay, Ryan.
All right. I'll put it this way. I believe, and I think this is getting a little bit undersold. 4-0 with Cooper Rush as your quarterback is different than 4-0 because Cooper Rush is your quarterback. I think that Dallas defense, like everyone's saying, has been playing very well. I think that their offense is getting a little bit overhyped, just based on some of the things that I've seen. Now, that being said, I'll acknowledge that Dallas has played a tougher schedule than Philly has so far, even though I think that people saying Philly's not played a good team is just completely incorrect in my opinion. I do believe it's a low-scoring game. I do believe that defenses mostly dominate this game. That being said, I would take Philly's weapons and Philly's quarterback over that of Dallas. I'm going to go with a narrow Philly win here, but it's going to be a game that I'm pretty sure is going to have less hair on my head next week than I have now.
Manny's also saying trade Zeke. LOL. He said, I'll keep Pollard. I know Kenny's big on Pollard.
I love Pollard. Then Zeke, I think, has reached his peak, and he's starting to go downhill a little bit now. Paul, I know you got a couple more questions. I'm just going to ask you a quick Giant question, Paul, and a quick response from you. Should the Giants, because I know you got a Giants question too for our Giant fans out there. My question to you, Paul, is going to be, should the Giants look to trade for a wide receiver? Our wide receivers have gotten off to a slow start. Should they look to trade for a wide receiver, bring in a veteran, or stand pat and hope Tony Robinson or someone else can step up to the plate, being we're off to a hot start, and now it's time. We're 4-1, 5 games in. Next step is let's get to the playoffs. So what's going on in your thoughts here, Paul? What do we need to do at wide receiver?
Yeah, I've seen the rumor mill going around about receivers, DJ Moore, among others. Personally, I wouldn't trade for one, even though the trade deadline's coming up pretty soon. I think the Giants have to see what they have in Tony. They drafted this kid Robinson with the second pick. I think they have to give them every opportunity to either succeed or fail. Galladay is still on the roster, and I don't know what his injury situation is and whether he will even be back. But if he does come back, I think they have to give those guys every opportunity to prove they either can play or they can't. If that's the case, then maybe go out and try and trade for someone. But right now, I would not make a trade for a wide receiver.
Kenny, can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah, I was just going to make a quick comment,
Okay.
Real quick. Paul, I agree. Don't trade for a wide receiver. We're 4-1, but we're still considered a rebuilding team. Do not trade draft picks away. That's my opinion on that. I would maybe bring in a veteran or hope that Ken Davis, Tony Robinson, Slayton, hopefully these receivers continue to step up. That's the route I would go. Go ahead,
Kenny,
Kurt.
I'm not sure who it was. I'll be honest. And I coming home from work today, listening to I don't remember if it was the K Show or Carton and Roberts, but somebody was on. It was an ex-GM, and they asked him that exact question, and he flat out said no. And he made a great point. He said in the last, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 years, if you take receivers that were drafted in the first 2 rounds in the last 2 drafts, or maybe it was the first 3 rounds. He said there's something like 46 or maybe 46 receivers got drafted there. And he said 32 of them are either elite, very good receivers in this league. So he brought up a name like Robbie Anderson. He said, he asked those guys, can the Giants win a Super Bowl this year? They said no. He said, so then you don't make that trade, because whoever you're going to draft in the second round is going to be better than a Robbie Anderson. So it's just kind of interesting of a point is, it depends. I mean, listen, you're going to give up a 6th round pick for Robbie Anderson? Yeah, but if they want a second, his point was you're going to get somebody in the 1st or 2nd round next year that's going to be way better than Robbie Anderson.
That's a good point. Paul, why don't I round robin? Because I know you got more questions, but why don't this way we get other panels and other guys on the panel involved. Let me ask an NFC North question to Carson. Carson, are the Green Bay Packers in trouble? Meaning, with their struggles, they just lost to the Giants in London, and lack of standout wide receiver going to hurt them going forward this year?
I don't think they're in trouble. I think Aaron Rodgers is still by far the best quarterback in that division. And if you took a look at that game, and you guys are watching it, Paul and Kenny, the Packers were in control of that game, especially in the first half, and then they completely choked it. I mean, you had the Giants completely run you over in that game. I wouldn't say the Packers are in trouble just yet. I still think they're just going to be just fine. You had Christian Watkins, who's still questionable, that went down. But I think Alan Lazard is going to really step up and become Rodgers' number 1 on that offense. But they're still my favorite to win the NFC North, and I don't see them not repeating as NFC North champs this year.
Great. I'm going to give Ryan an AFC North question. No, it's not your conference, but it's a good question. Ryan, are the Steelers, 2-part question, are the Steelers the worst team in football? And whom in that division do you believe is the favorite to come out on top?
First of all, no, don't believe the Steelers are the worst team in football. Favorite to come out on top for the AFC North.
I asked that question because the Ravens just beat the Bengals, but both teams are not. Nobody's really standing out in that division.
I'm gonna have to go with the Bengals. I think that the Browns, when they get Watson back, they will finish the season as well as any team in that division, I believe, once they get him reincorporated into that offense. But they're going to be missing him for too long to win that division, in my opinion. And I'm not buying into some of what Baltimore is selling until I can see a little more consistency there. So by default, I have to go with Cincinnati, even though, like you said, I don't think that any of those teams is particularly blowing me away. Cincinnati does not have the same teeth they had last year.
Let's ask some NFC West questions, and I'll give one to each of you guys. Paul, with the Seahawks having success, I don't want to ask Kurt this question. I want somebody who's, equal down the middle. With the Seahawks having success, meaning like their offense is doing okay. They're 2-3, but all joking aside, their defense is bad. As Geno Smith, Seahawks having success with Geno Smith, do you believe we are seeing results of more of a system, or is it more of the Seahawks just, overachieving, et cetera, and, they're going to really fall off the face of the earth soon?
I think it's a little bit of both. First of all, Geno's getting a chance to play regularly, which he hadn't been for a while. So that's one aspect of it. The system clearly has allowed him to use his best assets. And I think they're getting the best out of who he is as a quarterback. Okay. Also, I have to give a shout out to Carson's guy, Kenneth Walker, who had a good game last week. But I think it's a little bit of both that has allowed him to be successful so far this year.
Kurt, I got one for you on the Seahawks. If the Seahawks are quote unquote trying to have a tank type of season, what do you do with Geno Smith the rest of the year? Do you try and trade him to somebody like maybe the Dolphins, who may be looking for a quarterback, or do you ride with Geno Smith the rest of the year?
Listen, I'm not
because you're never gonna get Geno Smith at a higher value.
I mean, but realistically, what are you going to give? Like, I don't think, like the Miami Dolphins, they're not going to give you anything more than a 5th or 6th round draft pick for him. I mean, if there's no way someone's saying here's a 2nd round pick for Geno Smith.
But maybe like for a 3rd or 4th.
I mean, listen, if they did that, I would drive them to Miami to get rid of him. But I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, why was somebody going to take him for that? My opinion. I think listen, you guys had him in New York, right? I mean, he's the same player. You know, he's putting up stats, but, you know, I think in the long run, I think Seattle's plan all along was go younger. If you get your losses, get your losses. It's a really good quarterback draft. Get that quarterback next year. You're going to have extra picks, right? They got Denver's picks, a 2nd pick, move up and go get your quarterback for the future. Because if you don't get him this year, right? I mean, you have the ammo now. You have that 2nd pick, a 2nd 1 and a 2nd 2. It's a really good draft. So I think Seattle, without a doubt, is going to draft their quarterback of the future in next year's draft.
Good point. I'm going to give Carson. I got 2 more questions I'll throw out. I'll give Carson an NFC West one, and then I'll give Ryan. I'm sorry, I got 3 questions, so we'll do them quick. Just then I want to get back into some baseball. Paul's questions and then baseball. NFC West, Carson. The Rams struggles. Whom is to blame 5 games in so far for their Super Bowl hangover?
I think it's Sean McVay. Most? I think you got to go with Sean McVay. I mean, I think he's still kind of on the high with the Super Bowl, just coming off of it. And you've seen so far, and I called on Wits and Wagers last week. I said the Cowboys are going to beat the Rams, and they sure did. Matthew Stafford does not look the same. It's kind of one of his downer years. Cooper Kupp, still Cooper Kupp, but a defense, they lost a couple pieces in the offseason. But I think it's got to be Sean McVay. You got to get back to you're the defending Super Bowl champions, and you're 2-3 to start the year. That's just unacceptable for them. They got to be better.
I agree. 2 more questions. Ryan, I'm going to give you an AFC West one, and then Kurt, I'm going to give you an AFC West one, but don't make it 30 minutes of
No, not at all.
I'm joking. Ryan, I got a quick one for you. Chiefs had a big comeback win against the Raiders Monday night.
Yes.
Are they now the favorites over Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC?
I'll say yes right now. I think it's close still. I'm not saying that, I think there's any sort of significant gap. Now, that being said, I mean, I won't say we all saw the game, but we know some of the things that happened in that game that were a little bit questionable. So I'm not sure that's, I'm going to make a significant shift in my opinion of Kansas City or against Buffalo because of that one game. But I've felt for a couple of weeks now that Kansas City just has a little bit more juice, for lack of a better term, than the Bills do. I think the Bills are, they're socking teams, in the face. But I just think that there's a little more depth, I guess, to what Kansas City can throw at you. And Buffalo's lack of a running back besides Devin Singletary is still concerning to me.
Great answer. Kurt, I'm going to give you a Bronco one. Again, we're not going to make this 30 minutes, but I do want your opinion and your opinion only on this question, because I think we all know where we're going to go, but I just want Kurt's opinion on this. Kurt, 5 games in, do you think your lack of offense for the lack of offense for the Broncos is more on Russell Wilson or Nathaniel Hackett? And explain.
More, I think it's a combination.
If you had to pick one, who's more to blame?
More to blame? I'm going to say Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, listen, Russell Wilson isn't playing like Russell Wilson. I'll say that. But, you know, I'm sorry when, you know, you're the head coach, right? When I don't give a you know what Russ wants. When it's 9-6 Thursday night and it's third down and you can kick a field goal, I don't care what Russ is saying to the sideline. You put in his headset, we're running the ball, kicking a field goal. You're the head coach, right? You're the head coach. He's done it time and time again, running jet sweeps, and he's trying to be again. And I think this is a tone I think we're seeing from some coaches in the league, like trying to be too cute, right? You know, the first couple of weeks you got Javonte Williams averaging 6 and 7 yards a carry, and all of a sudden we don't go to him anymore. We play Melvin Gordon. We're throwing the ball 30 times. Like, I think he's trying to, you know, look at what I called. Listen, just like Kyle Shanahan, keep it boring. If it's working, run it. It's on Hackett more. He's the head coach. He came here. Now, they got to work together. But I will say this, Mr. Kenny, we are married to Russell Wilson for the next 7 years. Married.
Yes.
Right? Married. We made that commitment. Yes. We made the commitment.
Yeah, you walk down the aisle.
There is no commitment at all to Nathaniel Hackett, especially by Broncos ownership. They didn't hire him. There's nothing to him. So he is coaching for his job. And this is where I disagree with our good friend Matt Staffiero, who said, well, if they win 7 games, he gets year two. No. Absolutely not. He's not getting year 2. Not from this ownership. No way. And he shouldn't. If he wins 7 games with them, he should be gone.
I agree, Kurt. And just to add to that, because, you know, again, Matt's not here to defend himself, but I agree with you. 7 games with this roster, you're gone. If it was Vic Fangio, he'd be gone. So what's the difference in Nathaniel Hackett? You don't give him another year. The marriage ain't there. It's like oil and water right now. So, you know, unless things drastically change, unless things rapidly improve, unfortunately, I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to be a one and done for you. Paul, I know you got a couple more questions. You had some good questions. We'll let you get back into it.
Okay. So it's mostly an NFC East question. So has the NFC gone from the least to the beast? Is the NFC East the best division in football? I'll start with Ryan.
Yeah, it's got to be. I hate to admit it, but objectively, Dallas and New York are both a lot better than I thought. Even Washington, I think, has a better roster than they're playing, but unfortunately, they're limited by their quarterback. But I think that there's a lot more juice in both New York and Dallas that I believe, and this weekend is not going to be the game that I expected it to be.
Carson?
Yeah, I think the best team in football. You know, people have been referring to NFC as, like you just said, Paul, the NFC beast of the NFL. You got the Eagles who are undefeated. You got the Cowboys who nobody thought they'd be 4-1, and you got Kenny and Paul's Giants who are 4-1, which nobody saw coming either. So yeah, I would say that's the best team in football right now, or best division.
Kurt?
I'm going to disagree with you guys, and you guys aren't going to be happy with what I say, but I'm going to say no because, again, once we get down to the postseason, this is where the quarterbacks and those big guys are going to make money. I'm not going to trust. I still don't trust, even though I think Philly's, you know, right up there. I still want to see Jalen Hurts do it in a playoff game. I have zero confidence in Daniel Jones in a playoff game. Carson Wentz, forget about in a playoff game. And Dallas, I mean, if I'm saying, you know, I've seen Dak, been there, done that. He can't win playoff games. So Cooper Rush, so no, I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little biased here, but if I could still have Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert, I'm taking those quarterbacks in big time playoff games. So I'm going to say no.
But you haven't seen Russell Wilson win a playoff game with his current team, with his current situation.
I'm still banking on Russell Wilson getting it done, Patrick Mahomes getting it done, and even Justin Herbert getting it done, as opposed to I saw Jalen Hurts last year get shut out against Tampa, and those other guys I would want no part of. So I'm sorry, when the money's on the line, I'm going to take the AFC West.
But let me just throw that, and Kenny, I know I want you to respond, but let me just say this to Kurt. Based on preseason, the AFC West was considered the best division in football. what has transpired in the first 5 weeks of the season, that has not been proven at this point, regardless of having the three quarterbacks that you just named.
Still, I mean, when you say best division, best teams or best division in a tough fight. I mean, I did see Dallas opening night play Tampa Bay, and that didn't go good for Dallas, right? I mean, they got destroyed at home. So, you want to say the Giants, again, that game should have been a little lopsided early. Hey, give the Giants credit, they came back, but like Ryan said, Philly the Packers dominated that game. Philly, I'm going to give you props. I mean, listen, you're right there. You're blowing teams out and stuff like that. It's just there's a lot of, just like it's on circle with Lamar Jackson in a playoff game, that Tampa Bay game just doesn't go away from Jalen Hurts last year, where, going into this season, there's a lot of people that are saying this might be it for Hurts and Philly. And I still think that's it. I don't think everyone can say we're sold on Jalen Hurts. If he comes out in playoffs and has Mahomes, Wilson, and Herbert, they're there for the next 10 years on those teams.
I myself said it to you that I thought that Hurts needed to prove it in the playoffs this year, but I think that that's a little more. I don't know. I guess I have not quite as much behind Herbert and Wilson. Wilson because he hasn't done it with this current team, and Herbert because I don't know. I can't say it for 100%. I don't think he's won a playoff game, but I could be misremembering that. And if I am, I apologize. But I don't know. I don't see quite the backing behind them to put them that much different. But I respect obviously your process.
Okay, Kenny, say you.
There's only one problem, Kurt, with your AFC West right now. Josh McDaniel, Nathaniel Hackett, and Brandon Staley. They are bringing down the AFC West, in my opinion.
That's a good point.
Those three coaches alone. Andy Reid stands atop by far over those three, and maybe the best in the AFC, top three, in my opinion. That being said, the Giants overachieving right now, 4-1. Nobody expected that. The Cowboys with their backup quarterback, 4-1. Eagles 5-0. Right now, I'm taking the NFC East right now. 3 weeks, it might change. AFC, I'm taking the AFC North, especially when Deshaun Watson, love him or hate him, he's coming back to the Browns. And then you're going to have Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson in the North with better coaches, in my opinion. I think the AFC North competes with the AFC West for the AFC, and I think the NFC East and NFC West are also going to compete for best division as well.
Right now, I'm not sure I wouldn't take the AFC East over the AFC West.
Good point.
That's bold. Those coaches are ruining the division. Ruining it.
Yeah.
Right, but when it comes to postseason, though, I'll be honest. When the games are on the line, Nathaniel Hackett, Brandon Staley, and Josh McDaniels aren't going to be on the field. Those quarterbacks are going to have to make plays. Just like Carson said, reality is this, but the Giants could beat the Packers, the Vikings could beat the Packers, but if you said to me, my life depends on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, Kirk Cousins or the Vikings, or Daniel Jones and the Giants come playoff time, 100% I'm going Aaron Rodgers with the Packers. I mean, that's just because I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. That's why I'm going. I'm taking quarterbacks.
Fair point. But if we have time later, I got some bonehead decisions coaches made, and I want your opinions on them. So if we have time, but I want to get to everything else first.
Okay.
You got anything else, Cole?
The only other question I had was concerning Saquon. We've seen him now 5 games. I think he leads, if not in rushing yards, at least yards from scrimmage. I think we all can agree that he is now 100% healthy the way he's played this year. Would you, maybe not right now, but would you offer him a long-term deal at this point? I'll go Kenny last since he's the Giants fan. Kurt, what would you do?
I'm not doing it today because I don't trust his injuries over the past years. I think he's a fantastic running back, but if he makes it, he's got to make it healthy through the season for me. But if he makes it through the season, yeah, I'm giving him a long-term deal.
Ryan.
I'm glad you didn't go to me first because I had the opportunity to look something up real quick. The top salaries that are currently being paid to running backs, we've got Zeke at 12.4, Cook at 8.3, Mixon at 8, Saquon at just over 7.2, and Eckler at 5.5. And then if you want to throw him in there, Derrick Henry at 4. I have never seen in the last couple years a running back get paid top tier money where the team is like 2 years later, oh, I'm so glad I used that. I'm so glad I spent that contract. I don't believe in this day and age where, running backs, you can put multiple, Zeke might not even be the best running back on his team right now. I think that there's too much precedent in the last few years for volatility of running backs for, guys who are high 1 year. Remember David Johnson of Arizona was all the rage. Who was the last time anyone heard
2 years later, he's done.
I whether it's Saquon or anybody else, especially in this time and coming off the injury he has, I'm not touching a long-term big money contract for Saquon with a 40-foot pole. So I hope the Giants do it.
Carson.
yeah, Ryan killed it. He took the words right out of my mouth. The highest paying player on your team has to be your quarterback, and the Giants are going to have to make a really tough decision and ask yourself, is Daniel Jones the future? Because you're going to have to either pay Saquon or you're going to have to pay either Daniel or find somebody else maybe in free agency. But I would not pay Saquon. I mean, he's a great running back, but you got to be really careful because if you offer him the bag and he has like one bad year and he starts to decline, you're kind of trapped. Kind of what Zeke is doing right now with the Cowboys. They kind of overpaid him, and he's not really living up to being the highest paid running back in the NFL right now.
Okay. Fair point. Kenny?
I think I would go a route Kurt would want to go a route with the quarterback. I think I would go to franchise tag route. Franchise tag him. Get him the franchise tag, 1 year deal. Make him the highest paid running back in the league for 1 year. He continues to do it, then maybe you give him a 3-year deal. But I give him the 1 year deal, Paul. Franchise him. Then, show me you could stay healthy. Franchise him next year like they did with Leonard Williams, and go from there.
But Kenny, here's the problem. That sounds great, but that they don't want that though. Like that. Because it's crazy. Because just like you said, give Saquon $35 million. Like he's not looking at like. No, but anything.
Brian
but I'm
said,
saying even
Brian
if
said Zeke was the highest paid, well, give him $1 million more than Zeke, make him the highest paid.
Right, but I don't
back.
think he's going to want that 3-year deal. That's 4-year deal. That's what it's all about. Like
I got to think long and hard about it, Paul, but I think I would do it. I think I would give him a good deal, 3 years. If you want a long-term deal, 4 years, $32 million, 4 years, $35 million, I would give it to him. I mean, he's the MVP of our team. We would not be anywhere near a win without Saquon Barkley this year.
He may be the MVP of your team, but I looked at next year's salaries. McCaffrey is the highest paid running back at 11.8 next year, and there's talks about him potentially being traded this year. I can't see paying $13 million to Saquon, especially coming off the injuries and being the first time that he's put that level up since 2018. I mean, honestly, in my mind, the one running back I may be able to justify any sort of a contract for is Nick Chubb, and even that I would have to really sleep on.
What's he making, Ryan?
Nick Chubb, next year he'll be making 10.85.
Paul, what are your thoughts, real quick? Paul, you there? We lost Paul.
Oh, man.
Real quick, Keith is saying, sorry for the late arrival. Good to see you, gentlemen. Franchise. If you franchise him and he goes off, you are paying big. Kenny, I got one thing real quick, and I promise this will be a minute.
Yeah, we'll get into we'll leave it up to Ryan if he wants to do baseball, or I got 5 quick hitter college questions that I could do real quick, and then we can end the show tonight with baseball.
All right, I'll be 1 minute on this because
let's do that because I want to start the show with baseball and end it with baseball. So I'll do my 5 college quick hitters real quick with you guys when you're done, Kurt.
You know, you talk about coaches, right? And I'm going to give the Giants props on this one. You know, I think the Giants have showed the formula for what do you want from a head coach. And I'm a firm believer in this. I think it has to be an offensive head coach, but the key is an aggressive defensive coordinator. And you see it, and, you know, whether Daboll's calling the plays or whatever it is, he's an offensive coach, so he's going to be aggressive. He understands you're not going to win games 17-14, right? That's the Vic Fangio theory. My defense will hold them to 14. Yeah, I mean, be realistic. It's not going to happen, you know? So it's an offensive coach. We'll put up our points, but on the other hand, I got an aggressive maniac running my defense. And you know what? I'm sorry. That's my combination. Offensive head coach, aggressive defensive coordinator. And I think the Giants set the example of that's the way to do it. Kenny, what's your thoughts? Agree or disagree with me?
That's a great point, Kurt. Wink Martindale making it very aggressive, Paul. You know, our defense, we've seen changes from day to night with our defense. And agree everything you said, Kurt. You've been point on all night long. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Ryan, you agree with me? Aggressive head coach? I'm sorry, offensive head coach with an aggressive defensive coordinator.
I mean, the Giants aren't the only team to have that in the NFC East. I'm a little disappointed that they weren't the only one that got mentioned. But
well, no, I'm saying because they're new. That's why.
I know.
I'm
just messing with you, Kurt.
Because they're new. I agree.
But no, I do agree with that. You know, the rules this, you know, the last few years, they're, you know, all pretty much trending in the benefiting offense. People are, you know, they're turning into the game for offense. They're turning in to see Pat Mahomes, to see Justin Herbert, to see Josh Allen. They're not turning in, you know, unless they're me, they're not turning in to see Aaron Donald by and large, even though I think Aaron Donald's a freak of nature and I love watching him. No, I think that is the future of it is the, you know, like you said, the offensive side, but also this is the other thing too. I think that people are looking too much at, oh, this guy's going to be, or this guy's run the number 2 offense in, you know, in the NFL as a coordinator. He's going to be a great head coach, or this team's, or look at what this guy got out of, you know, this great quarterback and how he elevated him. I think that, I mean, we fell for that with Adam Gase.
Yeah,
we've fallen for that with you know a number of people recently. A couple of other names are I'm blanking on right now, but I mean I'll go to another classic example, and I don't want to go into this for too long, but people have been believing that Eric Bieniemy is getting shafted for these jobs year in and year out. There's got to be a reason why he's not getting jobs and other guys. And I don't want to go into anything like that, but
I agree, Ryan. With 100%.
It just
doesn't make sense. Why not?
You can't just look at these things. There's got to be something, either the way that they manage, the way that they handle a locker room, one thing or another. You know, there's got to be something, because we've seen coaches come in who have been, you know, great coordinators fall flat on their faces. We've seen coaches who have done amazing things in college. We just saw one last week. Matt Rule get you know, ousted in Carolina. So I think that I agree that you have to have a solid offensive mind and an aggressive defensive coordinator. But I think that if you're quantifying that just by, oh, look at, he ran the number 2 offense, or he coordinated the number 5 defense. I think that there's that just looking at it like that, I think it's one of the reasons why teams are missing the boat so much recently.
Carson, what's your thoughts on that?
What was the question again?
I mean, see, I just think, and again, I agree with everything Ryan said, but I just think, offense as a head coach, it has to be an offensive guy, but the key is have an aggressive defensive coach with him is the way to go, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to go defensive head coach, you know, conservative offensive coordinator. I just think offensive head coach, defensive, you know, nut job that's going to be blitzing and aggressive as the coordinator. You agree or disagree?
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And I've had to have nightmares and horrific flashbacks when the Lions decided to hire a defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, and now he's the arguably one of the worst offensive coaches in Detroit Lions history. So yeah, you got to be offensive minded to be a head coach. It's how the league is run now. You got to have high explosive offenses, but I for sure agree with you.
Keith saying a couple comments. Giants and Dable are one of 10, maybe 2 of 10 new coaches that are excelling in the first year. Then Keith is saying that's what the Broncos have. And ... Aaron Donald is not playing at the same level he was the last couple years, thinking this is the farewell season. And Keith's last comment is Eric Bieniemy now has the label of, quote unquote, we don't want to be the team that gives him a head coaching position when everyone else has passed, end of quote. Paul, what's your thoughts on that real quick?
I think Paul's having some connection problems.
All right, Kenny. I just wanted to
there,
throw that
Paul?
out there tonight.
Paul, are you there?
I lost you for a second. Sorry about that.
Paul, what's your thoughts on that? Aggressive head coach as a, head coach, you should have a head coach that's offensive head coach.
Yeah, I mean, you make a very astute point. I mean, you guys know that I loved Wink Martindale last year when we knew that Judge was going to lose his job. And I said, the Giants should do everything in their power to try and get this guy. I thought even as a head coach. But that being said, the fact that he was let go by the Ravens and then the Giants swooped in after Patrick Graham decided to go to Las Vegas was a blessing in disguise to have this guy now on leading the defense. Dable is fantastic. I think in this day and age, as Carson hit it, you need that offensive coach, whether he's calling the plays or not, but it's his philosophy that's running the offense through Kafka, who's calling the plays. And without a doubt, it's a winning formula, as you said, and I totally agree.
All right, Kenny, thank you for that. I just wanted to get that in a little bit.
No problem. Let me let's get our college football in for the week, fellas. I got quick hitter questions. We'll do them real fast. And the first one I'm going to give to Kurt. First one, Kurt, I got for you. I want you to rank these undefeated SEC teams, Kurt. And I got Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Rank them 1 to 4. How you're seeing them this year.
Well, obviously, I'm going to have to talk to you after Saturday. But right now, I think I'm fair. I'm going to go Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss.
Fair enough. Carson, I'm going to give you the second question. Rank these 3 undefeated Big Ten schools. Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State.
Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State.
Easy one. I'm going to give this one to all of you. I'll start this one with Ryan. Which of these undefeated teams, Ryan, has the biggest chance to be a sleeper and reach the playoffs? And I got 5, and if you have an other you want to add, that's fine. Syracuse, TCU, Tennessee, UCLA, Penn State. I will note Tennessee, just so you all of you that are thinking of taking Tennessee, they have to play Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say is I think on pure ability, I would have taken the Vols, but just their schedule I think is going to get in their way. I will say, for all the bad taste in my mouth that there is from his time in Philadelphia, Coach Kelly at UCLA, he's a heck of a college coach, one of the best that I've seen. I think that I would have a lot of faith that if any team is going to do it, it would be potentially a team led by him and an offense led by him.
Keith is saying, give me the Horned Frogs.
I like that's a sneaky one. How about it, Paul?
Yeah, Ryan, you made a great point at UCLA, but I'm going to go with TCU. Their game against Oklahoma State is going to be it's going to be a great game, and I think the winner of that game may come out, and there's going to be a possibility that they can possibly sneak in there.
Carson.
Yeah, I would say Tennessee, but you made a great point, Kenny, that they have to take down Georgia and Alabama, which I don't see them beating both of those juggernauts of schools. But I like what Ryan said with UCLA. I watched that game against Utah. Utah's no joke. watch out for the Bruins, because if they continue this hot streak, the Pac-12, I think they're leading the way. They just took down probably their future opponent in the Pac-12 championship game, but I would watch out for the Bruins too.
Kurt, you going?
Out of what? Out of the Pac-12 or?
Out of these or somebody else?
I agree with I'm gonna go TCU. I mean, they're home this weekend. I think, like Paul said, this is a big game. I mean, there's gonna be somebody that's undefeated out of them too, and that quarterback man is good. I'm gonna go TCU.
I'm gonna go different. I'm gonna go Penn State, and I can't believe I'm picking Penn State because I'm not a believer in Frank. They're gonna be 4, 5, or 6, and then pretty much all they got to do is like that. It's an easy task. They do have to beat Ohio State still, but if they can beat Michigan, they're gonna be there. And as opposed to Tennessee playing Georgia, Bama, and then another big time school in the SEC championship, the winner of the Big Ten East gets to play the Big Ten West in the championship, and that's almost a gimme. So I'll take Penn State on that one. Last one. Quick one, guys. Kurt, who has the biggest chance of being upset this week? Alabama, Clemson, or Michigan? Clemson's playing up Florida State, Michigan, Penn State, Alabama, Tennessee.
I'm going to take Alabama because I just think, again, I'm so big into college game day is going to be in Tennessee. This place is going to be, nuts. It's their biggest game in probably since T. Martin, that era after Peyton left and they won the title with T. Martin. Place is going to be absurd. You don't know what Bryce Young is going to look like. So I'm going to take Alabama.
I'm with you. I'm Alabama. I'm with you, Kurt. Tennessee. We'll have Sis on tomorrow. He can talk about what he thinks of the game. Tennessee, for those Wits and Wagers fans, they're getting 7 points in this game. That is motivation right there for me. That's on the board in the locker room. Alabama, 7-point favorite coming into our house. Orange out, whatever you want to call it, creamsicle out.
And Kenny, let me be fair.
It's going to be an insane atmosphere.
Kenny, let me be honest with you. If this game's in Alabama wins by 2 touchdowns over them. It's just You're going on that road. You saw what happened when they went to Texas. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy.
The target on their back.
I think Alabama's the better team, but again, going into that environment with the quarterback that you're not sure how he is. I'm still gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna pick him out. Right. I still might say Alabama's gonna win, but I just think being in that building is gonna be hard to do.
There's gonna be a big shakeup next week. I'm going Tennessee, but I'm going a 1B. Penn State upsets Michigan. Carson.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Tennessee's on the verge of being upset here, and +7. That sounds really intriguing. I mean, Alabama barely escaped Texas A&M last week at the end of regulation at home. Now they have to go into Tennessee. +7 Volunteers. I watched that game against LSU. They completely steamrolled Brian Kelly and LSU on the road. Now they come back home against their Super Bowl in Alabama. That's going to be on upset alert.
Absolutely. Paul.
I have a question, Kenny. Is Bryce Young playing this week?
Kurt, you got a status on Bryce Young yet?
I mean,
Ryan
yet? Might be able to answer that better. Ryan, what's your thoughts on that?
On Bryce Young's status for this week?
Yeah.
So
I lost you guys. Is Bryce Young, if you didn't hear the question, is he playing this week?
Yeah, no, I got it, Kurt. Sorry, Paul. Thank you. My understanding is that he's made progress, but it's not official yet.
Okay. Well, then I think I'm going to take Tennessee because if he is not playing, I think they will be ripe for an upset this week.
Fair enough. Ryan, who are you taking this week? I know you're not taking Tennessee.
I'm going to surprise you guys. I do think that Tennessee's going to upset my guys this week.
It's a good thing Sis ain't on the show with us tonight. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's realistic fan there. Realistic fan. I like
now,
it.
Let me ask Ryan this real quick. So if that happens, okay, because we've argued this all forever last year. If Alabama does get beat at
I know
Tennessee,
what this question's going to be.
Alabama does
I think
beat
I do
Tennessee,
too.
And now they have to now go play Georgia in an SEC championship game, and they lose a close game because Kenny's going to say, Air Force should be the 10-0 going ahead of them.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Yeah.
But should Alabama be eliminated from the playoff because they have 2 losses?
You're going to have to I'm going to have to see what the other teams look like and what the other teams I think it's hard to pick that in a vacuum, I think, because it's going to depend a lot on what the rest of the field looks like. It wouldn't be a great look for them, but I mean, not even knowing that your quarterback, who was already shaky after that injury, not knowing if he's going to play going into that game. Now, again, it could just be some gamesmanship being played by the Alabama coaches, and it could be that he's, further along than they're saying. That wouldn't surprise me, but I wouldn't be ready to say, yes, definitely eliminate them or no, that's, even with 2 losses, they can still make it in. I'd have to see what the rest of the field looks like.
Keith is saying, yes,
real
eliminate
quick,
them after 2 losses.
Because I want to get to Ryan. We're going to end the show with Ryan's baseball questions. This is where I wish I had my fraud slayer sword, because Kurt, you're a fraud.
Why is that?
You're asking Ryan, you want Alabama in with 2 losses, but you don't want to see a playoff more than 4 teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have 8 teams, you're going to get 3 or 4
How the hell does that work?
teams in. You'll get 3 or 4 SEC teams in that you want to see. And I would like to see, because I would like to see an SEC tournament like that. And you're saying you don't want that, but you want a two-loss team to go in with as one of the top 4. Is that, to me, doesn't make sense.
If Georgia wins out, they're in. The winner of the Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, that whole thing. Just say it's Ohio State. They're in. Okay, they're in. If USC is undefeated, they're in. Undefeated. Yes. Who's the 4th best team? It's not Alabama.
You've been riding Clemson all year.
Oh, okay, Clemson. Okay, I'm sorry. If all those teams, that's what Ryan. If all 4 of those, if everybody's undefeated, then no, Alabama don't go in with 2 losses.
No, exactly.
But if Clemson's out, Alabama's jumping. I don't want to hear TCU with 1 loss. No, Alabama.
Well, that's why I said I got to see the field, because like you said, it's gonna, if I'm putting Alabama against 2 teams who, the best, win that they have is against, Northwest Utah State, then which I don't even know if it's a real place, but
like basically last year's Cincinnati debate, like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and I have different thoughts on Cincinnati, but yes.
Let's because we're running a little short on time. Let's get to Ryan's baseball questions to wrap up the show tonight, fellas.
All right, I'm gonna try and make this quick. I'm gonna try and make this quick, y'all. So I got a general question, and then the rest are pointed questions. My panel-wide question is: Major League Baseball has not expanded since the mid-1990s and has only made 1 relocation in that time frame, which of course was the Expos to DC in 2004. In that time frame, the NFL has added 5 teams, if you count the Browns coming back in, and had 6 relocations, 2 of which those clubs have moved twice. NBA has 3 new teams and has had 4 relocations in the same time frame. Is the MLB lagging behind in terms of reacting to both what the market is and isn't with regard to baseball? And if so, what team do you think is most likely to be next to leave their current city? And where are a couple cities you believe MLB should consider relocation or expansion, and why? Kurt, you want to go first?
I mean, Vegas. What do you think of Vegas?
That could be interesting for a team like the Athletics. Especially if they don't get a new stadium like they want.
I mean, as much as, listen, I know I hate the Raiders and stuff like that, but it is pretty, they're giving them that, giving them a Super Bowl, giving them the draft, giving them that. So I would say Vegas. You're saying Oakland would be your team if you would say if someone's going to go to Vegas?
Well, just when you said Vegas, that was the first team that I thought of, just because they're not too far. They're in the West. They have a stadium controversy going on right now. I don't see the Giants or the Dodgers moving anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I like it. But that would be my number 1 choice is a baseball team in Vegas. And Keith is saying Vegas wants to be a sports mecca. So I would say Vegas.
Also, I'm sorry, Kurt, but Allegiant Stadium's got to be one of the top stadiums I want to go see. Kenny, I'll go to you next.
Vegas would be my obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw a sneaky little city in there. And not only for football and basketball, but Final Four, Indianapolis, and a team like Tampa Bay maybe can go to like Indianapolis. I know everybody says Montreal, this and that, but how about Indianapolis? Indianapolis 500. It's a big sports town. Just don't have a baseball team
That is
or
really
a hockey
interesting.
team or a hockey team, but they don't have a baseball team, and they could benefit off that maybe.
I like that. Carson, is Carson still with us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I agree with Kenny. I think Indianapolis would be a great city to have a baseball team in. Kurt mentioned Vegas, which is always on the table. They're talking about possibly once LeBron retires, he starts his own NBA franchise in Vegas, which would be really interesting.
Oh wow.
But yeah, with baseball also, I think San Antonio is a sneaky location. You got the Spurs down there; they could have a legit expansion with the baseball team over there, and maybe even Utah. They've got the Jazz. But yeah, I think that's a market that you could look at.
That'd be kind of fun. Paul, can you hear me?
Paul's been in and out. We'll get back to.
We'll get back.
Here's another sleeper location. How about New Orleans?
Yeah.
Ooh.
New Orleans could be a sleeper. Saints and Pelicans, and they get the third major sport, baseball.
Keith is saying San Antonio is his number 2 behind Vegas.
Paul, let us know if you're back with us. We'll just continue in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
I'm
How you
back.
doing? Paul, did you hear my question?
Good. So I did. I think the way sports now is going so international, obviously so many more NFL games in Europe. I would go international with baseball. They've played games down in Mexico. Why not have a franchise in Mexico and really go international? Because there's so many players that are coming from Mexico, in addition to having a huge, Fernando Valenzuela, if you remember him. I think the fans down there would flock to see teams like the Giants, the Dodgers, who have a tremendous Mexican fan base. So I would say like something like Mexico City would be phenomenal.
Paul, real quick, it's actually funny you said that because I was talking to Jen last night and we were talking about just like you guys were talking about eventually overseas and the London thing and getting an NFL franchise there. But what do you think the players' thoughts of that would be? Like, just say whether you're drafted or say you're traded, like you're living like you're not living in the USA anymore. Like you're nowhere near family. Like how is travel gonna work? Like how would it's gonna be great for fans there, great for that, but whether you're a player, I mean that's a totally different. It's different than I'm going to California to New York. I mean you're like in another country living. I mean, you got to live there, right? I mean, especially in your season. So that to me is just like
lost
interesting.
You guys again.
That would just be interesting. I don't know anybody's thoughts on that.
Let me just say this. When they expanded to Canada, to Montreal, and then obviously subsequently to Toronto, out of the country, but close enough where you're constantly coming in and out. I mean, families move up. Families are with players who are playing up there or had played up there in Montreal. So you make those adjustments. Unfortunately, you get drafted by a team. If there's a team in Mexico or any other foreign country, you're going to play with that team. Short of them becoming a free agent at some subsequent point. But, they're constantly marketing these out of the country sports. I mean, basketball went, global, and it seems to have been a tremendous boon to the NBA. So it's just something that baseball might take into consideration as far as I'm concerned.
That was really interesting, Paul. I didn't actually even think of like international locations when I was thinking of the question.
Same.
Yeah, that'd be sweet to have a Mexican team down there. You know, like the Raptors do it with Toronto. You got
Yeah.
like with hockey. There's a bunch of hockey
Yeah.
teams that are in
Right.
Canada that migrate all the time back and forth. And you want to talk about a whole
Yeah.
country, Mexico, getting behind your baseball team? That'd be sick for
That'd be
baseball.
huge. No, I think
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's a great idea, Paul.
Yeah. My thought was Nashville. I remember seeing that Dave Dombrowski had at one point been trying to get a team in Nashville. I've got personal bias to it because I visited the city and I love it there, but I just think, they've got the Titans there. They've got
Hockey.
The Predators. Thank you. I was having trouble with remember the name of the team. So they've shown that they can sustain, down there, and Tennessee and a couple of the surrounding areas have at the collegiate level have really supported their baseball teams. I'd be curious to see how a major league franchise would thrive there. I'll try and keep going a little bit more efficiently. This one's geared toward the Yankees, guys. So Kurt, I'll go to you first.
Okay.
Yankees related, what concerns you most going into the rest of the postseason about the current team? And I'm going to make a caveat just for you. You cannot say Aaron Boone.
Okay. How can I explain it? I guess, you know what? You look at last night. How did they score 3 of their runs? The home run ball. That they're just dependent on the home run ball, and they merge back to this is how it is. I'll say this. I watched that was it game 3? I watched Mets Padres, right? I want to say it was maybe the 6th inning. Yeah, but Paul, no. But you know what? And I said to Jen, I said, this is what I'm talking about. You're in a playoff game. You're up 2-0. Okay? Runner on second, no outs. Here comes the all-world probably best baseball player they say in baseball, Juan Soto. What did he do? Sacrifice bunt.
Base hit.
Or fly ball. Now it's 3-0. Now it's 3-0. There you go. So that's what I want. Is Anthony? Are they going to call Boone or Judge? And hey, if you're down a run, you got to bunt him over. You bunt him over. It's not home run or bust. So that's what I'm worried. They're going to rely back on the home run ball instead of playing for the one run to win playoff games. That's my concern.
To some extent, we were doing some of that some of that, smaller ball stuff earlier in the season. And I don't think it's any surprise that we were playing more consistently well when we were doing that. Kenny, I'll kick it over to you. What's your thoughts on the potential Achilles heel for our Yankees?
It's very simple for me, and a lot of Yankee fans are going to disagree with me. And I had, friendly disagreements, unlike our giant pages that we belong to, Paul. Friendly debate with Yankee fans yesterday. Aaron Judge leading off. In my opinion, it's a huge mistake. It may not affect us each game, but you're going to need this guy. I know you say, he might not be leading off, but I want him batting in an order behind somebody who's going to protect him. That being said, I know Harrison Bader hit a home run yesterday, but you got Harrison Bader batting 9. That's no protection for Aaron Judge, okay? And there's a good chance nobody's going to be on base for this guy when he comes up to the plate. You put him in the middle of the order, you're going to need a 2-run home run or a 3-run home run. I don't need a solo home run. I want to see the doubles that bring in 2 runs. I want to see the home runs the 3-run home runs. I don't need to see him hit a home run to lead off the game tomorrow, 1-0 as a leadoff hitter. I don't need to see that. That's not going to win it. That's not going to win the game for us. Win the game for us is him getting 4 RBIs, 3 hits, not 3 walks and a single here and a solo home run here and there. That I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's a mistake, and I've had this argument with Yankee fans all week on it. I hope it don't come to bite us in the what.
That's interesting. I hadn't actually thought of that. Although I will say I think that hitting what's his name, Bader ahead of Judge when you have the turn of the lineup, I like that a lot better than I like having someone like an IKF down there. But
real quick, I know we're running really late.
Yeah, I'm going to try and be
Kurt, in
fast.
like
I'm
30,
sorry.
in 30 seconds, I know you agree with me. Explain why you agree with me on it, because you played ball with me back in the day.
Oh, are you talking about me?
Yeah, Judge leading off. Do you like it or do you not like it?
No, Keith's saying I agree, Kenny, he should bat third. I mean, again, I think it matters more who's batting eight, who's batting 8 and 9, like you're saying. IKF, no, I don't like that. I don't like, whether it's the catcher and Bader, maybe a little bit. I mean, I know they always said like the number 9 batter, especially like in the National League before the DH, like they always said the number 9 batter is really like another leadoff guy, right? So, number 9, now you have, now you're rolling back into your legit leadoff. But I agree with you. Like the solo, get your best players on for him. So
You're
maybe
wasting his first at bat. In my
Yeah,
opinion, you're
I
wasting
like it. I
his
agree
first
with you.
at bat.
I agree with
I don't
you.
know. I'm not saying every at bat, but you're wasting his first at bat by batting him first.
I agree.
Sorry, Ryan.
Can I
I'll
throw
let you
my 2
continue.
cents in?
Oh, what's up, Paul?
It's to me, it would be like putting the Mets and having Pete Alonso leading off.
Paul,
And a few
you're
times,
breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
It's like putting Pete Alonso leading off for the Mets. May call me old school, but I want the guy that's going to be the big power guy hitting fourth, have the table setters ahead of him, get those guys on base, and then you have Judge coming up with the chance to hit 2 or 3-run homer, and then you get 3 runs instead of a solo shot. That's all I have to say.
And Carson, what happened yesterday? Yordan Alvarez, right? Your best hitter, best power hitter, bat him third. What'd he do? He got a 3-run walk-off home run. There's my point.
Interesting route, Kenny. I appreciate it. Paul. One for you, and then I'll kick the last thing over to Carson. Paul, in a situation where you hypothetically are named the new Mets general manager by Steve Cohen, who's the first player that you target in free agency or a trade this offseason, assuming you have free reign money-wise, but also being realistic in terms of who may actually be available?
I'm sorry, Ryan. I lost you guys for a second. What was the question again?
I'll try and consolidate it. Basically, if you were the Mets GM this offseason and you had free reign monetarily, who is someone you would target as long as it's relatively realistic that they would be available?
I'm going to sign my own guys like we talked about earlier in the show. I'm going and getting Edwin Diaz and Brandon Nimmo signed. And once I get those guys signed, sealed, and delivered, then I'll worry about maybe DeGrom and some of the other pitchers. I think the nucleus for the team is there right now. And it's just a question of getting those guys re-signed and actually perhaps some of the bullpen relievers that we need. So that would be my priorities.
Keith is saying Judge he would go get.
For your sake, Paul, I hope that you do get those guys back. Even as a non-Mets fan, I cannot picture Jacob deGrom in any other uniform. It just would sound so weird. Carson,
We'll see.
Carson, I'll shift over to you.
Mm-hmm.
What is, in your opinion, the Tigers' biggest need going into the offseason, or do you think they have too many needs to realistically address? And if so, would you take some of what may be your biggest strength in your bullpen, relievers like Soto and Jimenez, and consider moving them to try and hasten a rebuild? Or do you believe this year was an aberration and the moves made last offseason will begin to pay off going into the next year?
Yeah, I think it's got to be pitching. We kind of saw it with what happened with Casey Mize and Matt Manning. Tarek Skubal was our star of the show this year. He played really well. But yeah, I think it's got to be on the pitching side of the ball. I mean, we've had our lack of injuries this year, but we put so much hype and pressure around Spencer Torkelson, who was the former #1 overall pick a few years ago. Then we had Riley Green, and you're counting on 2 rookies to change the entire franchise in their first season, which isn't going to happen. But I think the move that we have to make for sure would be on the pitching side of things. And then the elephant in the room is who's going to kind of take over the throne for Miggy once he departs next year. But I would go more towards pitching side of things.
Interesting. And last, do you believe AJ Hinch is the guy, and do you have faith in the coaching staff as currently constructed?
I think AJ Hinch is the guy. I mean, his track record is good, but it's obviously very controversial. But he has proven in the past that he can lead teams to World Series. But yeah, he basically at the end of the year he fired our hitting coach. I think you're going to see a whole new range of a bunch of our scouts were fired by the head personnel up in the GM general area. But yeah, I think you're going to see a whole new coaching staff on this team for the Tigers next year.
Interesting. All right. That was my last question, y'all.
Great job, Ryan.
Yeah, great
Thank
job,
you.
Ryan.
Thank you,
That was
Ryan.
Awesome. I think we're ready for closing thoughts, Kurt. We went a little overtime, but when we have a great show, it's okay to go overtime, and it was a great show tonight.
You know, let's start closing thoughts with Ryan then.
All right. A great show, guys. I appreciate y'all asking me to host. I'm sorry that it went a little bit over, but that's characteristic when you're dealing with me. I apologize. And appreciate the thoughts. Really excited going into this weekend. You got Philly, Dallas, obviously, in my opinion, the biggest rivalry in football. Prayers up for my girlfriend who has to deal with me playing or watching a big time football game for the first time. But it's great seeing you guys again and looking forward to seeing what happens in the postseason going forward. Go Yanks.
Yeah, I'm going to give prayers to her because I could just tell you with Jen, I love Jen will fall asleep and then I'll start screaming and she gets up like someone's robbing the house. I got to like video. It's
Yep.
like, what's the matter? Nothing's the matter. Relax. Melvin Gordon fumbled again. Everything's the problem right now. So
Yep.
that's the problem. Nobody's
Exactly.
robbing the house. Melvin Gordon just fumbled inside the one. That's the issue. So I'll wake you up, in the morning. But I'll go next. Great show tonight. Listen, this is the best time of sports year. Not only are we talking MLB playoffs, college football, NFL football. We got NBA coming back, NHL. Our good friend Rudy and Clams, they love their hockey. That started last night. And NBA preseason, and next Tuesday, NBA starts. But we got to right this ship on Monday night, man. You talk about Hackett. Enough of the garbage. Enough of this. Just show them. You know what, Russ? Show them that you're friggin' one of the top 10 quarterbacks in football. Show them why. Let's go. You're a Hall of Famer. You're a Super Bowl champion. Let's go. Just let's quiet everybody down. Other than that, enjoy the games. Mr. Carson, you're up.
Yeah, great show, guys. Great job, Brian, hosting the baseball segment. Great, like you said, Kurt, one of the best times to be a sports fan. You got all the major sports competing all at once. Good luck to your guys' teams, because I'm telling you, it has been pretty brutal being a Lions fan. And when you get blown out 29-0 to a third-string quarterback and get shut out to Matt Patricia, it's not fun. So I'm hoping the Pistons can at least reconcile my sadness that is with the Detroit Lions over the last 23 years. But yeah, great show as always. Looking forward to Wits and Waiters tomorrow. And enjoy the rest of your night,
Carson,
everybody.
you know what? I say it all the time. It's worth the wait. I heard it all about the Broncos. They choked. They'll never win a Super Bowl. Then Super Bowl 32 happens. What a feeling once you see it once. And I just can't wait, Kenny. You're coming down. Paul, you can come down when our New York Knicks win, because of the misery that they put me through for my 48, probably for the last 32 years of the misery that team put me through. When they finally win it, I told Jen, I'm taking a week off of work. I'm just staying in the city, man.
A week off of work, you're going to be retired in a nursing home.
I'm staying in New York City. I don't know what I'm going to do. Parade, but when it happens, so Carson, when those Lions win that Super Bowl, man, I'm telling you, you're going to forget about all this. You're going to forget about this.
I hope I'm still alive when it happens.
You're going to forget it. Paul, closing thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Wonderful show as usual. Brian, great job. Good luck to your Yankees, Brian and Kenny. Just want to say thanks for your patience. Obviously, it's the technology today and the connection wasn't great due to circumstances beyond any of our controls, but that's a small price that we're paying based on whatever else is going on down here. But good luck over the weekend, guys, to your teams. And We will talk about the Knicks, I'm sure, coming up. And I'll tell you what, Kurt, I almost feel like a Jets fan. It's been so long that the Knicks have won a championship. So I feel your pain. Believe me. You know, being up in New York, I said to my son about all I want to see is another Giant championship and a Mets World Series championship. And he said, "Oh yeah, but at least you've seen two." I said, "I know, but it's been so damn long, and especially with you mentioned the Knicks." So
I just want one Knicks. That's listen. I'll sign up for one right now. That's all I want.
Well,
Kenny, final thoughts.
So
my final thoughts is Kurt and I will be roommates in the nursing home. Kurt will be asking, why isn't Patrick Ewing in? And I'll be saying, well, where's Pat Riley? Did he get kicked out? We're both going to have dementia. So that'll be when the Knicks finally win a championship. We won't even remember it.
Oh, man.
And that's my final thoughts. No, all joking. That being said, Paul, we know what you're going through. I seen your wife sent me a video. I shared it with a couple people. Thoughts and prayers for everybody out there. Glad we can lighten your spirits up and everybody else.
Thank you, guys.
Out there in Florida, what you all are going through. Glad we can lighten your spirits up for a couple hours. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see everyone for Wits and Wages tomorrow night.
Have a good night.